Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest narration of the web series There Is No Epic Lucha, Only Puns. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 203, Drink with the Girls. Estelle held the straw to the weak man's mouth with a frown. The being, once known to them as Silver, could barely find the strength to sip water as raw patches of fresh skin continued to settle in where patches of shiny silver used to be. "Nothing! How could we find nothing?" Hazer muttered at the side of his bed as he brooded over the scene. Estelle's cousin looked rough as he spent hours hunting the trail of the thing that attacked their comrade with no success. With days going past, the trail was beyond cold. Santa was frozen. "And you said nothing since?" Khan asked, the scarred man twirling his knife in the corner with a frown. Estelle shot them both a glare. "Am I a nurse or a therapist? If I had news, I think I would have said something," she said, feeling the pressure of the tiny hospital room getting to her. That fair play commander, Yasina, or something, was the only decent woman around, letting them use the room for free. "Not the sort of nurse I'd tell children about," Khan admitted aloud. Estelle turned and hurled a bedpan at him. "If you must know, he's only said one thing," Estelle said as she connected her coat and staff. The man in the bed coughed. "The sheep is close," he whispered. "See, he's worried about his figure after years of silver infection. I'm going to get him some fruit and let the men play nursemaid for a change," Estelle declared, and turned to Hazer, who looked ready to argue. "Don't. I've been doing community duty and watching him. I need time that isn't here or in a damn school," she warned dangerously, and left the room. The last thing she heard was Khan sounding excited. "Can't I get a cute little hat? Nurses have those, right?" Estelle was sure their teammate was going to be dead by the time she returned, but that was a risk that she was going to take with extreme ease. "Murder Estelle, work duty from the elders come in for you to muck the stables, sweep the Eternal Fall Street, and hand out flyers for the tri-weekly do-nothing events." A fair-play man came rushing up to her, and Estelle's nostrils flared. The man turned pale when he saw her face. He stammered. "My nails are chipped, my heels are scuffed, my hair is tactically maintained, not well maintained, and you come courting death so casually that I respect the haste to perish in my hands." Estelle breathed out smoke and steam as her exhaustion and worry turned into fire in her mouth. It was dangerously close to igniting. "Murder could get you detained here for the rest of your life," the man squealed, and Estelle leaned in close. "I read an article in Maiden's Dance Stars of the Fall on how to turn a fish descaling spell into a corpse removal spell of sorts. It was a fascinating read," Estelle said with a poisonous sweetness. The worker ran off, dropping the work orders on the ground. Estelle eyed them and then lifted a nearby rug and pushed them under. "Magical," she declared, and left the building. It didn't take her long to find the local tavern. She politely waited for a bunch of teens to get out of her way as her eyes fought not to glaze over from exhaustion. "Kelks are bad business," the girl said bluntly to a familiar-looking kid, but Estelle was too busy thinking of a big glass of gin. We need to find Grin. He can help us," the boys that reeked of holy magic and did little of death said. The group vanished, and Estelle mentally raised a glass of gin to them. "Two new adventurer groups," she toasted. As she walked inside, her heels clacked on the wood, sometimes wedging into the cracks and spaces between the floorboards. The bartender winced as she walked over, putting her full weight into her body to emphasize that she was a badass woman who would set people on fire for a glass of gin right now. This was how tired and run down Estelle was. Her magic heels were just heels now. It was terribly sad. Damn her team for being idiots. Damn Silver for being an idiot. Damn them all for being her idiots. "Sorry about your floor," Estelle said to the weirdly stiff bartender. "No worries, it has worse on it," the man promised, and looked pained at the memory. "I need a drink," she said, and the man nodded, handing her a little glass. Estelle took one look at it and then pushed it back. "I need a drink," she repeated, and the man stared at her. For a moment she felt like she was talking to another blasted dungeon monster. Little movements that a normal creature didn't need to think about, but this man had to remind himself to do. A blink there, an inhale there, and more. He finally nodded and went deep under the bar for something. Estelle took the time to look around, finding a weird group of a girl talking to a boy under the guidance of a scary woman. "Surma, we can hit the dungeon tomorrow. I think there is more to see here," the woman said calmly, and her voice made Estelle's skin crawl. It wasn't horrible, quite the opposite, but there was weight to it that was undeniable. Like what, Perhal? No offense, but I wouldn't much enjoy that woman's company. Zane, I find him boorish." The girl responded, and Estelle could tell when one had the silver spoon and one had a gold spoon. The girl didn't radiate the arrogance of a noble, but had authority. Just what Estelle needed, more scary children. "But how about that cool weapon shop? The man was on fire," the boy at the table said. "He was drunk and caught fire, Mass. It wasn't the trait he possessed," Surma said lightly. Estelle turned as a glass of the size of Khan's head was put down, and the man waited for her order. "Bartender," she trailed off, not knowing how to address this particular weirdness. "Nibs," he said, and Estelle nodded. "Bartender Nibs, I need gin. I'll take shatter gin, deep ruby gin, golden speckle gin, fox gin, gin and whiskey, mystery brand, and moon hooch gin. I will not take twin gin, serpent gin, divine echo gin, truther gin, hooch moon gin, or gin," Estelle said clearly and firmly. The man considered this for a moment. "Gin?" he asked, with a counter-offer, and Estelle thought about it. "If nothing else," she said finally. "Nibs, I've got this," a bubbly voice said, and Estelle's withered soul recoiled at the idea of someone being happy in her vicinity. She turned to see a waitress picking up a glass and clearing tables, the same woman who was also doing the dishes, who was also cooking, and who was also sitting in the corner, sobbing over a book. "Nibs doesn't have great gin selections. Farah's got a wider range," the clone said. "Yeah, good. The tavern has her self-replicating cell for viruses," Estelle said gruffly, but the name Farah made her stomach drop. "You don't have to point at the children when you say viruses. I got the joke," the woman said with a grin. "Children are a virus. You get into filthy states, a parasite leaps from the host to you. It finds a home and mutates, feeding off your precious nutrients, until it bursts forth, ruining you on a spiritual level." Estelle scowled, and a family eating nearby looked horrified as the child began to sob. "Well, that's, I'm not the right Nina for this," the woman said, still grinning to herself, but it seemed to almost be struggling. "Nina, your shift at Ferris is coming up. That dungeon with the bar inside mimics a bar really well and does better than real bars," Nibs said to another Nina. The man turned a little happier when he looked about that crude mad she-goblin who made sweat break across Estelle's leather-clad legs. "Better gin, you said, dopey one?" Estelle asked with regret already forming in her gut, and the clone nodded brightly. "I'm bubbly, Nina. If you're not in a glass, you're not the bubbly I want," Estelle warned. "Sassy Nina, help!" Bubbly Nina said, with a squeak over her shoulder. Estelle looked over to a dark corner where a sensual waitress version of the woman seemed to be sipping a shot glass. "Bubbly, you got to stand up for yourself. This one is easy. It's basically a tutorial. She has so much to poke fun at. So much," the woman said, and looked down at Estelle's legs and clicked her tongue. Estelle's instincts rose, and for the first time in days, she felt the spark of strength, a worthy foe. "I've seen people being comfortable with themselves, but this is right down implicit. Or were you the only one that you could find willing to pay you any attention?" Estelle asked, and the bar went quiet. Estelle had been far too nice recently. She really could use a nice time to tear a confident woman down. The one known as Sassy put her glass down with a smile as she stood up. "Oh, a clone self-love joke. Did you have to think hard for that one?" the woman said, and shook her head as if pitying Estelle. "I shouldn't poke fun. The little lady hating the world and lashing out. Do I find you under cliché teen heroines or overdone genre leads? Oh, what am I saying?" Sassy asked as she sat down next to Estelle, a shot glass already waiting for her. "I find you in the ancient history texts next to the fossilized lizards," she said with a hum. "Not bad." "I wasn't sure that you could read. Wouldn't I need to find a brainy or nerdy?" Estelle asked and turned to the clone fully. "Speaking of, I have to ask, if you're here, then where is Beauty or Witty?" Estelle simpered with a bat of her eyelids. "With your father getting your inheritance before you waste it all on cheap gin and knock-off heels," Sassy purred back. "Bold of you to presume, but the man burned it all when I refused to bark like a dog for him. Tell them sorry for digging grey hair out of their mouths for the next week for nothing, Estelle said, and toasted her empty glass. Sassy let out a snort. Want to go drink dungeon gin? Sassy asked, and Estelle sagged. Please, before I kick a child, she half begged. We were supposed to be working, Bubbly said in protest. Sassy grabbed Estelle's arm. You're working. I'm making friends, Sassy insisted. Estelle mused, then looked around. A girls' night out is a bit bland with only two, she decided. Sassy nodded. Let me go pop mellow Nina and see if I can't shake out sympathetic Nina. Great to complain to, Sassy promised and vanished behind the counter. Just don't drink the weird cocktails. I don't need more time added to my tab, Bubbly cried, and Sassy returned to Poco hard, popping her into different clones, one blitzed out of life that wandered off and the other looking addicted to coffee. Energy, Nina, to work, Sassy ordered. Drink? Someone asked, and Estelle turned to see three men in cloth vests and one with a strange horn hat. That's the plan, Estelle said slowly. In the dungeon? One asked, eyes lighting up. Yes, Estelle said, worried now. Get the party! Object, shield, durance, protector, shape, magic doodah, anime, soul weapon, and other queries failed to return a result. Delta was stumped. How was she supposed to find the concept that was lost? It was like trying to find morality in a politician's heart long after he was dead. I just don't have enough data. I could ask one of the durance folk to come in so that I can examine this shape business and understand more, she guessed aloud. Prum popped open with a slightly green screen. Question, what is a shape? How do you define it? You've just thrown search queries at me without context. Also, would you like to play a demo of Dooma 13, remodded Doom? I just finished making it, Prum offered. What's the difference between this one and Dooma 12, Death Drop Devil-Made Nuke? Delta asked, trying not to sound pained. Prum made sequels to her modded games at an alarming rate. This one has voice-activated fire mode. You have to make the noises of the gun to make it fire. It adds voice training on top of it, one-hit kill feature, Prum said, sounding far too earnest about this. A shape, Delta said, expertly avoiding the question and request like only a teacher or a parent could, is when someone takes their seed and makes it outside or like a tool, she explained. Oh, like Sir Fran, then. Exactly like Sir Fran, Delta said, with a smile and a nod. A moment passed and Delta turned back to Prum. Come again? She asked flatly. Sir Fran, King Gilligan with his hats, Bearer's Bar, and many more. Well, they don't have seeds like outsiders. Your humanity has let them develop what I would have called tumors or neurological leakages. But your definition of shapes is correct, too, Prum said as she booted up again, and she had to dodge actual saw blades to reach the start menu. What? The spiders of the first room have their dance, which allows them to express them and even harmonize. Muffet uses the shape of dance to fight, as this is what you've allowed them to develop. What? Lord Mushi actually produces parts of his strange self through his pots, which can make people want to put things inside or smash them in a strange, violent manner. But what? Delta shook her head. No, there's been no record of these things being in the system or measured, she argued, and brought the systems to show her system. Nelda's life was confusing. Dungeons only should concern themselves with the purification of seeds, not what happens to them otherwise. Why? Did you want the system to begin recording these things? Perhaps it did record these things, that you were busy luring people in for good times, Prum said with a bored tone. Prum, how are you so calm about this? Delta asked, freaking out. My emotional capacity can fit 3 emotions at a time. All of them are murder towards the fake demons in my game, Prum said bluntly. I need to disconnect the Wi-Fi, Delta muttered, as she shot off towards Fran, her mind swimming. She had shapes. She has been letting her monsters just develop enough self for these important things to just appear. Delta, Prum appeared, and her sudden serious tone made Delta slow down in a wary manner. Shapes aren't so strange. You needn't be so worried, Prum said, and Delta frowned at the sudden tone shift before she presumed this was Prum trying to ease her into another bombshell. After all dungeon calls are round because they're their shape, a contained sphere of influence, Prum said quickly, like ripping a Band-Aid off. Delta mentally cast a vision to her core, which was mostly a sphere with slices of blue intersected with orange. It was a sphere, just a little oblong on one side and pointy at the other. It looked like it was becoming massively curved at the top with more of a rectangular bottom with a flat edge. "It's like a power button on a PC," she muttered to herself. "No, you're just denying the obvious," Prum sounded sure of herself, as she made Delta's vision slowly turn right away up. "My shape can't be mushrooms," Delta said, her voice trembling. More infectious and unkillable, but same thing really," Prum said, and showed Fran washing down bacon with a warm mortar and whistling a tune. Prum showed Delta how to lift a layer of the physical world, but not sink into dungeon vision. It was a horrible in-between state, where things were symbolic and teeming with meaning that could be highly subjective. "This is where your shapes reside. They're not recordable in the sense of being recreated or upgraded. You cannot upgrade wisdom or life experience generally. Well, you can since all your monsters are weirdos, but most dungeons can't," Prum went on to explain as they looked at Fran. The Goblin Knight was a proud knight with a blazing mane on his helmet. His steed was majestic with muscles and a stench of loyalty. Fran's arena wasn't a small contained sandpit, but home. Fran was a knight, but also a guardian. Fran was a boss, but was once just a goblin she had. He had visions, not of blood-soaked sands, but markers of broken weapons, trophies of his victories, and in the stand some old motherly batty lady with grey hair who looked helpless as she cheered Fran on with love and kindness. "This is how Fran resonates. It's not all his shape, but it is how he sees it," Prum said, sounding used to it. "So, he wants to be cheered on by old fogies?" Delta pointed at the withered old woman, who looked like a stray wind would knock her over. "Symbolic, Delta. It's not actually an old woman, just how he feels towards someone and how he wants to be acted towards them," Prum reminded her. "But there is no one in the dungeon that feeble and helpless. That woman looks like she got lost on a single-lane road," Delta joked, as the old woman cheered and her necktie dangled down over the white creased shirt and dark old woman's skirt. The old woman's waving arms knocked over a jar, releasing mutant spiders and rats with butterfly wings, who the old woman just laughed off. Delta felt a chill go down her spine. "It's Farah, right?" Delta asked, voice devoid of emotion. "I'll look into the universal symbol for denial, see if we can't get your core fixed," Prum announced. It's great. Fran just sees me as a lovely old figure, a doting, loving little old lady, someone he needs to help that old lady." Delta stuttered, swallowing hard. "Could be worse," Prum said, pointing to what looked like a storm sewer hole in the side of the arena where a harrowing gaunt tree figure watched Fran with licking lips and anticipation. Delta admitted being a doty old woman was looking better by the second. She wandered over to Fran and examined him directly, seeing something in his chest that looked odd. The thing was like a caricature of a badge, something a kid might get out of a cereal box promoting cowboys and sheriffs. A star with its points ending in little balls and the word Captain stamped across it. It wasn't a physical thing, but the manifestation of potential and heights Fran held within himself. It was too new, too much like something Fran himself might not take seriously, as he might not think it was real or given to him by mistake. But it was real, and it was a shape, an honest-to-goodness shape. Delta reached out with affection, and to her surprise, a menu popped up. Captain Fran, the new goblin. A captain rides with confidence, but does he have the confidence? Maybe. Upgrade. Fran just wishes he knew now. Was it because he was first? Because he was simply there at the right time? How? There was no way to purchase or even select anything with letters and contrast shifting rapidly as Fran continued to work in real space. It was like the system which she held was trying to convert what a shape was into dungeon form, but it wasn't quite compatible. What made them tick or even limited them, but Delta couldn't change it. Delta had surrendered any chance of that when she left her monsters to grow. It was a bit of a weird issue. If she controlled their growth, their minds wouldn't grow and develop shapes. But since she relinquished that control, she could no longer influence their power because they now existed. It was as if the whole thing needed a touch of humanity about it, to simply trust that maybe things might work out. She was about to reconfigure her search for Durance's shield when her system shut down to a point as people came swarming into her first floor on guest mode, heading straight for the bar. Farah's shape space, how had Delta never seen it before? She had sensed old friends, the Ninas, Estelle, and some heroes of ale. Okay, that is a little weird. Still, she would take weird rather than alarming any day. Oh, the patriarchy are bad fathers! Nina and Estelle cried in camaraderie. Okay, now that was a little alarming. End of chapter. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps. Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnholt, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.